Is Commissioner Nadia going to be on?
Yeah, you're on.
Okay, we're on. Very good. Good afternoon. This is the Board of County Commissioners work session check-in with Superior Court that we do on a monthly basis, I believe. My name is Ty Menser. I am the chair of the Board of County Commissioners. We also have Vice Chair Commissioner Gary Edwards, County Manager Mira Chavez, Superior Court Administrator Pamela Hartman-Beyer. Public attendance can follow along on our Thurston County YouTube channel or join by calling 360-252-9020, pin 1234. Okay.
And Commissioner Mejia is going to join us here in a second. She's logging in.
Very good. We just got joined by our presiding judge, Judge Eric Price. Welcome, Judge. And you're muted, by the way, and we're just waiting for Commissioner Mejia, who is jumping right in. I'm looking for my agenda. I don't believe we had a...
No, it's just an open discussion, sir.
Yeah, okay. That's usually what it is. I just wanted to make sure I disposed of my agenda too early. Okay, so yeah, we just kind of back and forth, whatever issues, trying to share information. We have a lot going on, you know. I'll start with Judge Price. If you have any issues and from the Superior Court that you want to let commissioners to be aware of.
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, good afternoon to everybody. And I want to especially say good afternoon to our new commissioner, Ms. Commissioner Mejia.
I would have welcomed her, but I figured that you guys were acquainted.
We are acquainted, and I must say it's an honor to be able so early in her tenure to be able to congratulate her as one official to the other. I'm very, very proud of Commissioner Mejia, and obviously we know a lot about her, having been with us, and our loss is the county's gain. So congratulations again, Commissioner.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Judge Price. That means a lot.
So with respect to things to talk about, I just have a couple of items I'll tick off. I'm more than happy to take questions as I go through that. Just either wave me down or ask me at the end. It's fine. I want to give an update on jury trials. That seems to be a recurring kind of update when we have these meetings about what's going on at Superior Court. We have currently suspended on jury trials. We made that decision late November based on advice from our county health officer. The date for restarting jury trials as of our last emergency order was January 19th. That's the Tuesday after the 3-day holiday. It's about 11 days away. We've obviously been looking at that date very, very closely, and we know that our stakeholders and other partner agencies are very interested in knowing what's going to happen with that date. I will say that, and I've talked about this before, initially earlier on in our COVID issue, we had the Supreme Court took sort of a statewide approach to suspending jury trials. They have decided not to do that, so they've left it up to the individual counties. We were and have a great relationship with, well, that's my characterization, with public health. I hope they feel the same, but have been dialoguing with them on a relatively frequent basis that allowed us, I think, to take a kind of a proactive view of suspension again as things got bad in November. And we were, to be honest, kind of in front of many of our sister counties in terms of suspending jury trials. It was a little uncomfortable, frankly, to be at the sharp end of the stick there. Nevertheless, felt like we were making the best decision. As it turned out, I think, of our sister counties ultimately made the same decision. And when they made their decisions, depending on when they made it, they have different dates. So there's a spectrum of dates when counties are supposedly restarting jury trials. Some counties are in the month of January. Many others, frankly, are February or later, about half and half from what we surveyed. So we've really looked at this January date very closely, the 19th. We just literally got off the phone with public health, I don't know what, 45 minutes ago. And At this point, we are going to continue to hold trials on the 19th. We just had, and Commissioner Menzer, you know what this is, a trial confirmation. We just had trial confirmation calendar for the 19th, a calendar I handled, and we have, I don't know, 14 in custody trials confirmed, something like that, confirmed for the 19th. So we're very interested in seeing if we can start that. I will say that the information we got from County Health was, and maybe it's not a surprise, wish we knew more kind of answer from them. We are at this point moving forward with the 19th. However, and there's always a however, we're going to be in close conversation with them next week to see if that's a realistic date. We want to know more, and Dr. A believes that she'll know more next week as opposed to this week. And so we're going to hold off on making a decision on the 19th apart from the current one, which is moving forward until next week. That's kind of a convoluted explanation. I'm more than happy to take a question on that particular issue if folks have them.
Yeah, let's stop on that issue, Commissioner Mejia.
No, my general question would be currently, and I'm just coming off, but what's the backlog looks like for Superior Court at this moment for in custody trials in particular, since those people are, in custody and they're waiting for that jury trial date?
Yeah, that's a great question. The actual number of what the backlog is kind of depends on how you define what backlog means. We had 30, well, first of all, let me back up and say there is a lot of effort has been made by both public defense and the prosecutor's office to do what they can to try to resolve cases or to continue them to specific, more realistic dates, and to try to just have higher priority cases set, particularly early on here while we're still limited with our facilities. So, one way to look at backlog would be how many cases didn't go during this time that would have gone that are still in custody. That number's huge, and I don't have that number in front of me. I can tell you that this week and next week, just in custodies, we have over 30, well, next week we have 42 cases set for the week of the 25th. So between 30 and 40 cases in custody only, cases set per week. That number normally would be something more like 10 instead of 30 to 40. Under non-COVID reasons. So that, we obviously now we can potentially try 2 cases. Before the new site was up and running, we could only do 1 because of social distancing. Prior to COVID, we could do up to 4. So our capacity has reduced, but the volume has gotten bigger. And that is not even including out of custody. Out of custody numbers are huge. I don't think it's realistic that a out of custody case is going to find its way onto a priority list for a long time. And I'll say, just because something's out of custody doesn't mean it doesn't have a whole lot of hurt to continuing it. And you're not having someone sit in custody, but you do have, dozens and dozens of victims and, witnesses and family members, and all of those people are affected by delay from out of custody cases. So we're really concerned about, we're all concerned about what's happening with COVID, but its effect on our jury trials and what it means for litigants and witnesses and victims is certainly at the top of our mind. So long answer is the backlog's large. I don't know what that number is. Maybe Pam could be happy to try to formulate a response to you and get that to you.
So Commissioner Mejia, congratulations again. Good to see you. But just to all the commissioners, in September, our number of defendants that were in custody awaiting waiting trial were 204. I'm going to run the numbers again here this week, and I can give you an updated number as to where we are currently. And we had 972 active pretrial cases. And so I'll get those numbers to you hopefully by the beginning of next week. just to see where we are. Sometimes there is a backlog of cases coming in. I also know that the prosecutor hasn't filed everything in a set period of time that he normally would. So it's hard to formulate what that number really looks like right now without all the data into the system, but I can tell you what we have in our case management system at this time.
Yeah, and that last point's a really important one, which is with COVID restrictions, both in terms of the jail, in terms of what they're willing to book on, as well as the prosecutor's charging decisions. There is, as I understand it, and this would be a better question for Prosecutor Thunheim, but there is, as I understand it, a huge stack of referrals sitting on desks at the prosecutor's office that they're just waiting to be able to charge. There's also a whole lot of warrants for charges that are not bookable at this point that as I understand it, law enforcement is waiting to move on. So once the jail changes their booking restrictions, there's going to be probably a lot of influx of defendants into the jail because there's currently warrants out there that they're not actually picking people up on. So there's a lot of inactivity that normally would drive volume. So the numbers that we have right now, as bad as they are sort of artificially low from what we normally would see.
Commissioner Edwards, any comments on this topic?
I guess I would mention that, and we don't know yet what everybody's up against. They're talking about that new virus that's around the country now that you're more susceptible or more likely to catch. So this thing could drag on for a long time. Other than trials, could I ask you about another court action?
Sure.
I mean, not about a particular court action, but just how you guys are doing business. I see that, I guess it was Superior Court handled 2 of the restaurant closure issues. One was from out of county, one was from within the county. Are we gonna have to, here in Thurston County, are we gonna have to end up handling all of those L&I complaints and, where restaurants don't close? Are they going to be brought by the Attorney General and be brought to our courts, all of them, even from Spokane? I mean, one came from Lewis County, but is that what we're up against here as this thing continues?
Commissioner, I don't want to speak for the Attorney General's office and what they decide to do in terms of where they bring a case. There may be reasons why they would or wouldn't try to bring them to Thurston County. I can only speak, and I want to be cautious before I talk too much about specific cases. Well, the one you're referring to, the Lewis County case, came to us not because, as I understand it, not because of a decision by the Attorney General's office, but rather because all of the Lewis County bench recused. And when a sister county has all their judges recuse, there's this sort of relationship between counties to say, hey, all of our judges are recusing. Can we get a judge to hear this case? That case technically is still being heard in Lewis County. It's just a Thurston County judge is hearing it based upon all the recusal of their entire bench.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe we were going to have to hear all the cases from around the state. And that was going to create quite a workload for you as well.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say that's a better question for the Attorney General's office, I guess.
Yeah, okay. Well, but that's not likely. I mean, so it's not something that we have to look forward to, that they're all going to be heard here as far as you know. And they can deal with them.
I'll just answer with, I don't know any motion to consolidate those particular cases.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, in other cases, that was one of our arguments when we went to the legislature asking for funding, was that, oftentimes state cases are heard here for whatever reason. But it's, whether it's the tunnel up in King County or whatever it is, so I could just see that we could run into a problem if they're all going to come here as far as workload. That's what I was wondering about.
Certain kinds of cases have to be brought here, but it doesn't sound like this is one of those kind of cases.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there's certain laws that require those cases to be brought in Thurston County, and there's many venue provisions that permits those counties to be brought, or permits those cases to be brought in Thurston County, or, the locus of wherever the issue is. And so often the parties or the state makes a decision You're absolutely right, though, Commissioner. We are concerned about workload related to state cases. We always have been, which is why we've come before this body as well as others to talk about the volume that's driven by the state capital being here. So
The reason I bring this up is we just had a meeting with one of our legislators, and that I was tempted to bring that up with him when we were talking about court funding and all the cases coming here, but I didn't know the answer, so I didn't say anything. But we'll be talking about it later too.
Okay, great. I had a couple questions or in a comment that, so I know you're not responsible for district court, but we don't do monthly check-ins with district court. And I'm just wondering, do you have, I was told district court had set a further out date. Do you, not asking you to justify it, but do you know what they did?
I asked one of their judges in the meeting yesterday what their current date was, and he said that he didn't know. Well, I don't want to speak for them. The short answer is no. I don't know what they're doing.
Okay, very good. The prosecutor, you know, I had a conversation with him on Monday, and, you know, just as a consideration for the commissioner's benefit, I mean, he really wasn't advocating for one thing or another. He was just stating as a factual matter that if he's got 150, I think is what he said, in custody and out of custody cases, if he has to come to you come to trial confirmation basically trying to be ready to be able to tell the court, I'm ready for trial in that case. When there's, and that 150 cases would translate into thousands of subpoenas that his office would have to issue. I mean, maybe that's a slight exaggeration, but not that huge of an exaggeration. So he was just sort of commenting on the, you know, the kind of the logistical challenges that are going to be faced by his office and the system in general as we try to manage these high trial confirmation, you know, trying to deal with the backlog, so to speak. And, you know, you said 14 in custody trials confirmed, but we only can do 2. So, I mean, even if we, yeah, so I mean, even if we did maximum capacity and, you know, we're still, that's 12 more that then get trailed over to the next. And then you've got another slate of trial confirmations, and there's a slate of trial confirmations weekly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like the flow just keeps coming, you know, and when you're only able to dispose of 2 cases at a time, and most criminal trials can be done in a week, but every now and then they need more, they even need more than a week. So it's just quite a conundrum. So anyway, I just wanted to share that.
The only thing I'll add, Commissioner, is I understand the challenges from everyone's side, but when we start to have more certainty to our trial dates, what tends to happen, and I'm sure you know this as a practicing attorney, is other cases may plead out or resolve in other ways. Mm-hmm. And so that trial certainty time does provide some form of incentive to resolve a case if you can short of trial. And so what we anticipate is, even though if there's 14 that are set, hopefully still some of those cases may resolve short of trial, and not all of them that we can't reach would be carried over to the next week. So it does actually help us when we have those trial dates going. And I'm sure you know that, but just to articulate it kind of to the public, that's generally what happens, is that there are more cases set than actually go, but people find other ways to resolve them.
It's true, but the lawyers can, I mean, you always have to be prepared that that case will not resolve, the judge will not grant you a continuance, and you will be standing in trial with somebody's liberty in your hands. And so the lawyer, the burden that's placed on the back of the lawyer is to be 100% prepared to try any number of those cases. As that deadline, you know, as you start to rely on things happening closer to that deadline, the workload that just piles, and I mean, is just can be overwhelming.
And Commissioner, I think that's a really important point, and it's certainly not my role to talk about other agencies and what they should or shouldn't do. But, you know, one of the, you know, obviously Prosecutor Thunheim has expressed frustrations about the conundrum to me and to us. We share obviously those frustrations and share the concern about this bow wave you're talking about. I mean, yes, things settle and get resolved when even they're set for trial, they don't have to go, but we've got too many. And there will be a bow wave that'll just kind of, well, how do we work ourselves through it? If there was an easy answer, I think we would have found it by now. And every county is in the same situation. But I think the commission needs to think about when an agency says, because of this, consequence of what we're faced with, we've got to have more people to be able to help process this. And if that's a COVID-related expense with perhaps a new CARES Act type of things coming through, that's something that the commission should be aware of hearing. None of us can be doing business as usual right now with we're faced with because of essentially 10 months, 9 months of not doing any trials when we normally would do 2 to 4 per week. The other missing piece is we haven't even talked about civil cases. Civil trials have been stopped since March. They had never did restart in July when we restarted criminal trials, and they're all still sitting there. And it's easy, I think, if folks are focused on the criminal side of the shop, to lose sight that we've got a ton of these civil cases, and they too get value from having dates certain, in terms of resolving. But in addition to that, they're not victimless either. There's a lot of injured people. There's neighbors. There's, I want to say, not victim in a criminal sense, but, injured people who are small businesses, all of those folks who are looking toward having civil litigation resolved in some sort of trial. We don't even know when we're going to be able to do that. I know there's a number of civil practitioners who are very interested in when we're going to restart that. We just, we've got so much of a criminal backlog with meaningful impact on people in jail that even starting civil litigation is going to be a challenge. So it transcends just our immediate problem of what do we do with these 14 cases each week, and the other 40 set for the week after that, and the 40 after that, and the 40 after that. We've got this whole parallel universe of civil litigation that is going to be impacted.
Are bench trials proceeding by Zoom?
On
Like family court, for example, a child, if it's a non-jury trial, is family court able to process trials through Zoom trials?
Yeah, family court they are doing their trials over there by Zoom. In fact, we have a termination trial set for next week. Obviously, the Iman case, they're doing closings as we speak today, and that was being handled. So, I mean, I'm really more focused on the jury trial, the impact on civil litigants.
Yeah, I was just curious. Commissioner Mejia, did you have something?
Oh, that was, Judge Price just answered it, and it was going to be about civil bench trials and, how we were going to process those in the future, because I know there's, I know they've been waiting too, and I know they're not the priority right now with everything going on, but is there a start date for those with the ability to be able to handle those over Zoom?
We haven't officially stopped bench trials in any sort of official way. The only thing we have suspended is jury trials. So, and we have done a handful of civil trials. Some of it, though, I don't want to talk too much about all of our problems, but when we had to socially distance and we had to limit capacity in courtrooms, we had to completely restructure the way we did our criminal calendars, which takes more bodies to do. So we have fewer bodies in terms of judges to handle the criminal calendars, which prevents us from having as much capacity to pick up a bench trial. So we have done some civil bench trials. Iman is a good example of one. I believe Judge Murphy did a civil bench trial earlier. We're doing termination trials because those are high priority. Those sort of transcend, and when I say termination, I mean termination of parent rights cases. We do those here in our main campus. But, we just, we need more bodies. We need more space. We need more time. We need, just everybody, you're hearing the same thing. We're just doing the best we can.
Okay, any other comments on this topic before we let the judge go to the next topic? Hearing none, go for it.
Okay, well, that was really the main substantive issue. The others are more in what I would call updates. I know that we talked we have talked several times about our off-site space. I just wanted to sort of, I think in this body, I haven't officially talked about that, but we did have utilized that for the IMIN trial, even though we didn't have jury trials over there last month when the space finally got online, we were able to use it for a bench trial. It was, all reports were positive, just little niggling things, kind of punch list items were the comments. So that was great. And frankly, that trial we needed that space to do some distancing, and it worked out well. So we're excited about the opportunity that new space provides us, not just with respect to jury trials, but just in general to provide a little more elbow space for us. We have another update. We have a new judge starting Monday. Judge Sharonda Amamila will be starting with us Monday. She was recently elected, folks know that. Judge Hirsch's, Ann Hirsch's retirement ceremony is today. Pam, what time does that start?
3:30.
3:30 will be her retirement celebration. I don't know. I don't celebrate Judge Hirsch leaving us, or commiseration, frankly. We're all going to miss her terribly. She's been very meaningful to me personally, and to our bench generally. And she is, tireless advocate for children, for families, has a very strong sense, has been an advocate for family juvenile court for her entirety, being on the bench. And she will be, both for those reasons and also just because she's just a marvelous person, human being, she's going to be sorely missed. So that, as I say, commiseration happens today at 3:30. And then Judge Amamilo's investiture and robing happens on Monday afternoon. Is that 4 o'clock, Pam? Yeah. So, whenever we get a new judge, it's exciting. And she will be working into the trial, what's called the trial rotation, which will be doing criminal calendars. She'll have a civil caseload. She'll basically be located here at main campus. And she'll be going to judicial college at the end of the month. And then we'll sort of ramp her in. It's a culture shock. I can speak from personal experience. It's a culture shock to move onto the bench. There's no real easy way to be prepared for everything that confronts you. And learning curve is steep, but we have high hopes that Judge Amamila will be a fine addition for us. Along those lines, I just want to update you on the 9th judge. We have a meeting put together for tomorrow morning. I think Pam and I will be on it with newly elected Representative Bateman to talk about sponsorship of the 9th judge legislation that's necessary. I think also on that call will be AOC's lobbyist, as well as the director of AOC will be on there as well. And just want to be able to answer questions and help, Representative Bateman understand the importance of the issue. I know she's no stranger to criminal justice. I know she's been on, Law and Justice Committee, Council, and so forth. So I don't expect her to need a lot of, education because I think she brings a lot to the table. So, but that happens tomorrow. Any questions about any of that?
Raise your hand if you got a question on update. Nope. Don't see anything. I guess my question on that 9th judge is, do you have a read on the legislature? Like, are you optimistic that we'll get some legislative approval this year, or is this kind of planting the seed for maybe next year? I mean, how long does it take do you think to get traction? I know this is an odd year. The legislature's only taking on certain things. Is there any hope we get this done this year?
I think I will have a better answer for you tomorrow. I know that the BJA is supportive. That's the Board of Judicial Administration at AOC's level, Administrative Office of the Courts. I know that they're supportive of the request and the need, but we're just going to have to see, and I should have more information for you tomorrow. I'm happy to follow up with an email if that would be helpful.
I was just curious if you'd heard, in advance, like this isn't going to happen this year, or your chances are slim, because we've heard that about certain things in certain committees that I'm on, like, hey, don't, like in salmon recovery, you know, we're basically trying to just protect the funding that we have. We're not, the broader salmon recovery community are being told by our lobbyists, don't try to launch a new initiative this year. It's just not going to be the year. It's just not going to be taken up. Those types of issues aren't going to be taken up. Things like that.
I haven't directly heard anything like that, but if that
Okay.
changes, I'll let you know.
Okay, good. Okay, if that was your guys' list, do the commissioners have any items back to the judicial community? I'm looking at my list. We're working on a job description for the criminal justice program manager position. That's gone through county manager, and we got some community input, and I sent it to the prosecutor. Just got some feedback from him this morning, and public defense. We're just trying to see how we can, you know, describe the position in a way that'll be most effective. We've got the one thing that's kind of interesting that, you know, things I learned about from talking with the prosecutor and the public defense is that you know, each of those offices is changing over to their new case management system. It's taken longer than we thought it would with COVID and everything, but they're basically now starting to get to brass tacks and working through the data that they're going to have the system collect and how it's going to interact with each other. And I had a really nice conversation with both of them because they both want to collaborate, but they haven't quite done it. And so I'm trying to connect the dots because I had a presentation from a group called Measures for Justice, for example, and there's other groups out there. John Thunheim had a presentation from sort of a different group, but it's the same idea of how to collect data in a way that help you evaluate your system. And with our two main pieces of our system about to change to these new computer models and sharing, I mean, it's a perfect time to sort of collaborate on what information should both of our offices be collecting, and then that we can then put together and you know, analyze, you know, show the public or whatever. So I think a lot of strands of this are coming together in a positive way. So so John Thunheim is going to have the same presentation this week that I had maybe 9 months ago with Measures for Justice. I think Patrick O'Connor's already had that presentation. And even if they don't decide to go further with Measures for Justice, it'll give them a lot of food for thought about what the possibilities are for data collection and analysis as they design the pieces of their new software. So that's kind of a cool possible 2021 advance for us.
Yeah, I know just from cases I've dealt with over the years, the disconnect between their computer systems has led to a lot of unnecessary problems and delays, issues. Discovery, yeah, mostly in discovery, just unnecessary problems. You know, so we're hopeful that this will help coordination between the offices and at least won't remove conflict, Lord knows, but it should remove unnecessary problems.
Okay. Commissioner Edwards, anything else for the court?
No, sir, I'm good. I think the whole system is, boy, it's overloaded. It boggles my mind how it's going to work its way out. That's it.
Iron out the wrinkles.
Yeah.
County Manager, Mira, anything?
No, I just continue to be appreciative of you making an effort to utilize the space that we had outfitted on Chandler Court. That much appreciated.
Yeah, that won't be a problem.
This punch list that you mentioned, is that, you know, are you going to somebody with that and getting those problems resolved? Okay, Pam's got a thumbs up, so I want to hear.
Yeah, and I use that in sort of a formal construction way. What I meant was more of a judicial temperament way. Certain judges are over there going, I don't like this, I don't like that, I don't like that. So less to do with construction and more to do with personality.
Commissioner Mejia, anything before we close out for this afternoon?
Nope, I have nothing. Thank you again.
Pam, did you want to say anything about UGA?
If I can real quick, the Uniform Guardianship Act,
Okay.
it was a proviso budget approval from the Board of County Commissioners to fund the representation for both youth and for parents going through the process. I just wanted to let you know, if you haven't heard, that the governor actually signed a delay of that legislation for 30 days. So it's not going to start until February 1. And I anticipate, based on news I'm getting, that it may actually be delayed until July 1. And so as soon as I get confirmation of that, I'll provide that to Robin and Ramiro, and that would reduce the amount of, obviously, proviso funds that we would need, which would affect your general fund funding. So I just wanted to keep you updated.
Do you think that delay is it because of what we care about, that it's placing a burden on counties, or is there some other motivation that's causing this delay?
I think it's twofold. I think one, it's unfunded mandate on the counties, and it needs to come with some funding. And two, I think that it's the backlog that's been created by this COVID-19 situation, and people are just asking for more time to kind of close out cases so that we don't have to have parties refile them and kind of start a process all over again.
And I was aware of and part of an effort by the Superior Court Judges Association to push back on some of the legislators on the timing of this for those very reasons. And there was initial pushback to that push. I mean, that there was sort of like, the expense is not that big a deal, you guys. And I do think that there was some success by the efforts made collectively by the Superior Court Judges Association to sort of help educate on the real burden it was on both courts and counties. I don't want to speak out of school because I wasn't part of those actual discussions, but I think there was some benefit that came from those efforts.
I know that the commissioners last month discussed looking at the law in terms of the unfunded mandate and what options would we really have in terms of pushback, like how strong is our leverage, so to speak, and that's something I guess we touch on.
Yeah, we needed to bring that, the discussion was to bring it to the WASAC level. Hopefully we can have a consensus across the counties.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and that's something we can, hopefully there is a delay in the implementation. And I believe the proclamation by itself is not enough. I think there is a legislative action that needs to occur. Is that correct, Pam? Because I think they need to actually enact into law the delay.
Yeah, it's my understanding that the governor's proclamation only goes for 30 days, and then there actually has to be an act by the legislature prior to keep the extension going. But everything I've heard, not saying it's going to happen or that I know for sure, is that it's likely that it will be delayed at least through July 1.
Okay, thanks for that update. And with that, we'll say this afternoon, see you at Judge Hirsch's event, hopefully. And thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.